I hope we can all hear each other. My name is Kansime Mukama Taremwa. I will be moderating today's session. I'm informed that two of our panelists are not yet on the call, but I am sure they'll be joining us shortly. I can see Andrew is on the call though. Andrew, it's a pleasure to have you in this conversation. I can see Maria is on the call as well. I believe we are waiting for Ruth and Mary. I can see Mary is on the call as well. Oh, I think Ruth is on the call as well, just to be sure. I don't know.
Yes, Ruth is on the call.
All right. Thank you so much. This conversation is certainly, I would say, long overdue, but yet very timely. We need to be having it like yesterday. But let's just be able to begin in a few. As I mentioned, my name is Kansime Taremwa. I'm an associate at Signum Advocates. I support specifically in the employment and benefits practice teams, but also in commercial practice, and we interface with a lot of things on tax law and policy. So I have a bit of context in coming to this conversation to offer a little moderation and guidance. I'm privileged to be invited by my friends at Women Pro Bono Initiative to moderate again a conversation that is extremely important for the rights of generally citizens, but specifically the rights of women in our context. I will just ask Maria or anyone from WPI to simply welcome us and give us context for this discussion, and then I will ask my panelists to introduce themselves. We will start in the order of Andrew, Ruth, Mary, and Maria herself, who is going to probably introduce the talk, and then we can kick it off from there. Maria, if you don't mind.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you all on this call. My name is Bukirwa Rahom Maria. I'm the program manager at the Women's Pro Bono Initiative. And the reason we're having this discussion is because of the recent tax that was passed on diapers, and it has implications on the rights of women. So this conversation is particularly centered to have a gender lens, have gender discussions on how tax and policy legislations are formulated, and start a conversation on how we can have better reform, not only in this particular policy, but the policies and legislation going forward that have gender lens and take into account the circumstances and the lived realities of Ugandans, especially women, who are disproportionately affected by our economic system because of the past and historical, patriarchal, and systemic violence that they face because of how society sees them. So much of this conversation is to help us get enlightened on gender perspectives in not only taxation, but policy formulation. Help us start conversation to understand and really have a perspective, give it a human lens on what affects women, what affects day-to-day people, because I feel like sometimes our legislators are out of touch with the reality that's on ground. But even as a bigger collective, we are intended to contribute as a whole to having a better society that's free of violence and discrimination against all women and girls. So maybe I'll delve in also to introduce the Women's Pro Bono Initiative and the work that we do, just briefly. The Women's Pro Bono Initiative is a feminist organization founded to advance gender justice and challenge all forms of discrimination against women and girls in Uganda. And our vision is to have a just and equitable society where women and girls are free from all forms of violence, all forms of discrimination and violence. And our mission is to advance gender justice through promoting autonomy, voice, and influence of women and girls in legislation, policy, and practice. So maybe that's a sufficient background. And I will introduce myself. I am the program manager, and I'm happy to be a panelist on this talk. Thank you, Tarima.
Thank you very much, Maria. I was just struggling with the unmuting button. Thank you so much, Maria, for that introduction. We will really delve into the discussion so that we don't lose time. But I will just ask my panelists to introduce themselves and what they do, and then we can ask the discussion. We can start with Andrew. Andrew, if you're on the call, please introduce yourself.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, Women Privilege Network Initiative. My name is Andrew Chambade. I'm a partner in Godena Advocates. I'm a tax practitioner for 12 years standing. I'm humbled and privileged to join this discussion and looking forward to the several interactions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. A pleasure to hear from you after such a long time. Mary, if you're on the call, please introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mary Beatrice Bavidia. I am a mother. I am the founder of Girl to Woman organization. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mary. Ruth.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen on the call. My name is Ruth Naluja, and I'm the Executive Director for the Spina Bifida and Hydrocephalus Association of Uganda. Spina Bifida is a neurotube defect for those of us that may not understand, and as well as a mother of a girl child who is living with this condition. Nice to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ruth. Maria, you've already introduced yourself, so I won't belabor the point. It's amazing to start this conversation because I think we need a bit of context. The 2023-2024 national budget, which has been passed by Parliament and was read by the Minister of Finance on June 15th, contains a resource envelope of 52.7 trillion. 27.4 trillion of this is supposed to be collected from taxes. And so the URA, through the Ministry of Finance, at the start of the year, proposed a number of amendments, which presented with them the tax bills on excise duty, on the import duty, income tax, and the value-added tax for the primary purpose of increasing tax collection. Perhaps the very reason why we are here is one of the most interesting areas of contention when those tax discussions were going on. The Minister of Finance proposed that the tax regime on diapers should be rethought, and indeed an amendment on the value-added tax act was passed in section 8A that imposes an 18% levy on diapers, adult diapers, and generally the whole discussion. Now, the context, of course, is that previously these have been exempted as medical, considered as medical supplies, and have been exempted from taxation. And so now we find ourselves on the crossroads with a law that has been dubbed by many as retrogressive. I will start with Andrew on this conversation. Andrew, you're the tax person in the room with, as you said, over 12 years of experience. what is this elephant in the room called VAT? What is this elephant in the room called value-added tax? Why is it so important? Why are we having a discussion on it?
Thank you so much, Tareba, and to everyone listening in. VAT is basically a short form of value-added tax. And theoretically or academically, it is a tax that is charged or that is assessed by the URA on the value of each stage of a product that goes through. So it's a tax basically on consumption. So each time there's a product, each time there's a service that you consume, the understanding is that service or product has gone through several stages. And there's value that has been added on each stage that product has gone through, like a diaper. So you, the final person, or you, the consumer of such a product, you are required to have an account of a tax at 18% in the context of Uganda. So principally, you find that because it's a tax on each stage of production, a manufacturer, any person within the value chain keeps on passing on that tax up to the final consumer. And ultimately, when you look at the mothers or the women or the adults, they are the ultimate final consumers of this product. And therefore, they are the ones who feel the burden of that thing or that elephant, like you called it value-added tax, or VAT. So in the context of the tax law has come up with a requirement that every good or every service, for as long as it is not listed in some schedule or on some list that Parliament has come up with, such a good or such a service is required to pay value-added tax. And like the context that you have given us, that value-added tax elephant now is a requirement for every person who will be able to use or who will find themselves requiring a diaper in their home or for different reasons. So that is the elephant called VAT. It's a tax, and it is levied at every stage of production by any person who is the user or the consumer of such a particular good or service.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Andrew. And indeed, I would imagine from what you've discussed that the immediate effect of that increase of that levy of 18% on the diapers generally is now a conversation that has then led to increase of prices of those diapers. Would I be correct in that assessment?
Very right. And for context, last week I bought diapers for the kid at 18,000. And today they are 25,000, an increment by 5,000. And when I asked in the supermarket, they said, no, there is tax on diapers now. So you will be very right. And I've already experienced the effect of that.
All right. Thank you so much, Andrew, for that context. I think it's extremely helpful. Maria, with this discussion that Andrew has brought to the fray, what are the human rights implications, and specifically the context of women's rights? What is it that is a pain point from a women's rights perspective that is causing us, among other things, to have this conversation?
Thank you, Taremwa. So when we look at tax systems, you have to understand that while women and men are typically taxed under the same rules, the structure and administration of tax systems can have differential impacts on women versus men. Because firstly, women do the most unpaid care work. It's a fact, and that's what happens in the country. So there is going to be a gender gap in terms of labor market participation. This is a woman who has been relying on adult diapers as an essential health product, been using it for her child, and a person living with disability, even for herself, because there are sexual reproductive health rights implications on women using adult diapers. The health personnel will be able to shed more light on it, from fistula, from getting irreparable tears while giving birth, cervical cancer. There are very many sexual reproductive health rights components that result into women having to use adult diapers. From the statistics, it's 1 in every 25 women is prone to having fistula. From the COVID-19 effects of teenage pregnancy, we saw very many girls under 15 pregnant and more prone to having these irreparable tears because of the frame of their bodies. So you can see that the most people that are going to be using these adult diapers are going to be women. So the implication in terms of them using them for sexual reproductive health rights component, but also the people that they take care of, they are the ones who have to do the unpaid care work. Generally, because of our society, how it is, there is that social perception of women. So you will have an effect in their participation in social life, their participation in economic activities, but also their mental health as people who are beneficiaries from these diapers. And then the economic strain, as you have seen, there has been a trend where women are becoming breadwinners. There are many single-headed homes. You will see from the research that we did in our family policy analysis, which you were present for, there has been statistics of very many single-headed homes where women are taking care of households, not only of their own children, but also children birthed outside their unions by men. So all these various intersecting aspects have a ripple effect on the rights of women. So there are gender biases and gender implications when doing tax. So you will see that even the World Bank has a program called the World Bank's Global Tax Program, where they are doing initiatives to explore gender dimensions in tax policy and reforms. So this can be done through having analytical work and an analytical lens when having these tax debates, having these policy debates being formed. So you will see that at every point in this tax, there is an effect of a woman on women because of a decision made without proper research being done.
Maria, I hear you on the rights of women and the protections that have been eroded. In fact, there have been many conversations on the fact that this tax is another tool of structural violence against women. And that's all appreciated. But one of the other arguments that comes from Parliament and from government in imposing this tax is the idea that diapers are generally non-biodegradable and therefore an environmental hazard and a danger to climate change. In this era of climate change activism, are the rights of women more important than the right to a clean and healthy environment? Is that an argument that you have explored to have a more contextual discussion of this issue? Because that was the justification from Parliament, one of the justifications.
Yes, it's a discussion that we have explored, and even when you look at the climate change discussion, there has been implications on the rights of women and having a gender lens, even when you're advocating for climate justice. But one of the things that have to be taken into consideration is the do no harm principle, is the decision that is being made by Parliament in terms of levying this tax, or when they weigh the pros and the cons, is the do no harm principle being observed? Because if you look at in terms of climate change and the effects of climate change, there are other measures that can be put in place so that the environment is protected, other than having the tax levied on the diapers, because there is a tax on diapers, it does not mean their production will stop, because there will be a certain sect of the community that will be able to access these diapers none the same. So government's mandate should not be to just tax and leave and expect by taxing diapers that the climate change, that they are advancing climate change. That would just be an escapist kind of argument. They have not really addressed the issue. It would be better to have measures in place of having maybe recycling, or having, there are those measures that the government can put in place to address the climate crisis without unfairly burdening those who rely on these products as essential health commodities. Because you see, they are going to affect the health sector. They are trying to get revenue to, quote unquote, advance the country. And then in turn, they are putting another burden on the health system. These diapers, not even only just for women, not only just for women, there is the effect on people who have spinal cord injuries as a result of accidents. Those people also need these adult diapers. So you will have a burden on the health care workers who take care of these people in hospitals. There'll be implications, not just only for the health of the person that needs these adult diapers, but the health of the health worker who has to find other alternatives to adult diapers that may not be safe for them. So you'll see that the ripple effect in terms of the do no harm principle, there is more harm to the health system, there is more harm to the economic system, because women are the biggest contributors in the agricultural sector, which is our biggest contributor in terms of GDP. Then you will have effects in terms of people's mental health and wellness. You have seen the statistics on mental health. Andrew maybe can shed more light in terms of the effects of tax, whether it's doing more harm or rather it's making the government go into more indirect expenses, because these are going to be more expenses in terms of the health sector. That's my perspective.
Thank you, Maria, and I'll come to Andrew shortly on that point you've just raised. But I think that it's important to have a bit of context on why this conversation is extremely important, and that's why I'm going to bring in Ruth and Mary. I'll start with Ruth. I understand, Ruth, that your work involves working with people who really have difficulty with incontinence, among other effects of the condition that you described earlier. What is the context in the society, within the health sector, within the public health spectrum? What is the context that we have missed, that this tax is being introduced into? What's going on that perhaps is unknown to the ordinary Ugandan, or to the people in privileged positions, or either unknown or ignored? What is going on that you would want us to be aware of? How has this been received within the circles where you operate?
Oh yeah, thank you so much, our moderator this morning. As I've been introduced, my name is Ruth Naluja, and I think this morning we are discussing a very critical issue that has been long overdue, but nevertheless, it's never too late. I really believe that we can have solutions to this. Maybe to the listener out there, it is very important for us to put the word incontinence into context that maybe will help people to appreciate and understand why the issue of diapers is very critical and of relevancy to everyone in the public out there. In the first place, I'll begin by saying that incontinence in the context of social and health sector of FACE is the inability to control and manage bodily functions, particularly bowel and bladder. Control and control their bladder. It is an important aspect of overall health and well-being, as loss of continence can have physical, social, and psychological consequences. These are some of the issues that our people out there who cannot voluntarily control their bladder or bowel that are suffering from. And different various medical conditions like disabilities and age-related factors, like I've talked about earlier, can affect continence and may require interventions, support, or management strategies to maintain or regain continence. However, as someone is living in this kind of status, health status, they will require medical supplies that support them to live, to be socially accepted and to live an independent life. And when we continue to impose taxes that we are discussing about this morning, the moderator has already said that, the previous speaker has already said that he has already faced the implication. Parents are already out there worried about what to do next. But the listener out there should know that using diapers is a human right. So we are discussing this issue from the human rights perspective, using a human rights approach. Wearing diapers is a right for adults and all those people who may require them due to medical or physical conditions, just like any other health requirement or aid. And so the use of diapers should be considered as a basic necessity to ensure that the individual's well-being, dignity, and independence are upheld, are protected. So it is very crucial to support and respect the needs of those who rely on diapers to maintain their everyday life and personal hygiene. For a person who is using diapers, we have young people, young girls and boys who are using diapers to be able to go to school. And if we withdraw or we impose heavy taxes, these children are not going to go to school. Personally, I've been using about 30 diapers every week. And if a single diaper has increased in its cost, how much more is it going to cost someone in this current economy who is not earning, who is having a child with disability, and having many others out there? So right now, the parents are already worried. What is going to happen? This means that most of them are going to have their children withdrawn from school because of the financial burden that taxes on diapers is imposing onto the families. Then as we think about supporting this, of course, I know that law is already in place, but I think we can have a fallback position that will come later, maybe in my discussion. But right now, let us compare the financial gains with the potential increase in healthcare costs and societal burdens resulting from reduced access to adult diapers. Because with this increase, affordability is going to be compromised, accessibility is going to be compromised, and availability of these diapers for vulnerable individuals is going to be compromised. So ladies and gentlemen out there, as we sit in our respective offices and departments, let us think about the financial burden, the social burden that this is going to cause, to impose onto the vulnerable persons. And everyone is a candidate of incontinence. Every one of us is a candidate to incontinence. So some of us might use it temporarily, and others might need to use it for a very long time or for their lifetime, like the spinal cord injury patient victims and those with spine bifida. So to the moderator, maybe that is what I can submit for now, but this is a very critical issue that needs urgent and immediate attention from all sectors of the government. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ruth. And I'll quickly, get into the discussion with Mary as well. Mary, you probably have had clearly what Ruth has discussed, and much of it I'm sure you would agree with. But what's your context? Sometimes we get lost in the generalities. What's the specific story of your life that you think, if you don't mind the viewers, the listeners knowing, what is the story that you think the government is ignoring, your individual story, but that can mirror the stories of many other mothers? Mary, just to confirm if you can hear me loud and clear.
Yes, Andrew. Oh, sorry. Yes, can see me.
Right.
Sorry, my network has gone off. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly.
I beg your pardon. I lost you.
I can hear you perfectly. I just wanted to know, what's your individual story that you think the government is not, may or may not be known to the government and to other stakeholders, but this is a story that mirrors the stories of many other mothers across the country and across the globe, that you think we need to be knowing in this conversation, so that we don't have this discussion on the tax in the abstract. What would you want us to know as a contextual point of view?
Thank you so much. My name is Mary Beatrice Valere. I am a mother to 3 girls, and I'm the founder of Girl to Woman organization. This is my story. Just like everyone, I get married. In this marriage, I expect to have children, just like anyone would. And God is faithful. I got a first child. She is 11 years now. She is a perfect child. With perfect, I mean she has no deformity on her body. Now I get the second child. It was a shocker to me as well at the day of her delivery that I delivered her when she is a spina bifida child. It is something that I didn't know. It had never crossed my mind. It was a shock when the child was shown to me after delivery. And then that's when this whole journey started. I got to know about so many things about spina bifida then by the doctors who came in and started, walking this journey with us. This child is 8 years now. So when she was around 1 and 8 months, we discovered that she was different. Much of the fact that we were already told of the so many things that would happen to her, this in particular wasn't told to us. We were not told that she would get issues with her bladder. So at 1 and 8 years, she started 1 year and eight months. She started developing, body weaknesses. She had pains in her body, and then we kept on going to the hospital, only to be told that she had a UTI. So she was started on medication. We moved from the first line generation to the second to the third until the fourth line. And with the fourth line of medication, those are the likes of amikacin, meropenem. Then we were told that she had issues with her bladder. She couldn't completely empty it. She was given only 10 days to live if we were not able to fly her to India for major surgeries on her body. So by the grace of God, it was possible after running so many runs, charity runs, to have us raise the money. So when we took her there, They did so many diagnoses on her and found that one of the issues they had to address was the brain. It had a tumor, so it had to be removed, and then her spine. They had to do a cord detachment, which I didn't. One thing I didn't tell you is that day one, she still underwent the first operation to close the spine. So now at 1 year and 8 months, she underwent another operation to do the cord detachment and then work on her sphincter muscles to make sure that the bladder could completely empty and then could close in the urine and open the muscles when it's time to release it. So after that operation, we thought that maybe she would be better and live a normal life, just like any other child. Unfortunately, as time went on, that did not work out either. So we were told that this is one of the defects that she has to live with all her lifetime. With this, I mean she is not able to completely empty her bladder, and we do catheterization on her 3 times a day to make sure that her bladder is empty so that she does not get infections. The moment she gets infections, we are posing a very high risk to her kidneys. She's on prophylaxis every day. She takes medication to keep her in check, just in case she gets any bug in her urine, it doesn't cross all the way to her kidneys. So apart from having to do CIC, she still keeps on leaking. The urine keeps leaking. So we keep her in diapers every day to make sure that she is clean and she's able to fit in society, be able to play with other children without them noticing this disability she has on her body. So this is one of the things that, as I told you, as I'm a mother, I never prayed to God, to have it happen to me. It just came upon us. So it is one of the things we are learning to live with every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. And just so that this story makes context for everyone listening in, and it's really a painful experience of a life that you really didn't choose and it has come to you. But now here is the government saying, we don't want to know what's going on in your life. We don't want to know what's going on in your family. This is what they have imposed on you. What has this tax in its very initial stages now, what has it meant to you as a mother who takes care of a child that is living with the condition you have described? What has this tax, the price increases on the diapers, what has it meant to you as a mother? Mary, can you hear me? Maria, can you hear me? I don't know if I've lost Mary.
I can hear you.
Right. I'll come back to that question, Mary, just in case you come back on the call or can be able to hear me. But I'll quickly run to Ruth again, just to pick up from where Mary has, what Mary has described. And I think you mentioned in your introduction as well, Ruth, that this is something that you've also dealt with. You have a child living with this condition. I hear the challenges that we've described. But I've also read on the market that there's a lot of flooding of reusable diapers, and there's a lot of pros and cons for that discussion. As many Ugandans would like to say, look, we are a country that is generally below the poverty line, as they would say. We are generally a nation whose economics are not functioning as they should. We should learn to live within our means, and that means that we should the question then comes up, Ruth, why should we be buying diapers every day or every time you need them if you can wash and reuse? As a woman, as a mother, what do you have to say to Ugandans who are saying these, you know, for lack of a better word, very cynical comments on this situation? Should we learn to live within our means as a nation?
Thank you so much, moderator. I think that is a very good question because in every intervention, it is very good for people to think about cost effectiveness and sustainability of particular interventions. But I will put on the shoes of a caregiver, especially when it comes to diapers. Diapers are not in any way different from pads. We have reusable sanitary pads for the girls, menstruating girls. And here we have diapers. And when we think about the pain, psychological pain that comes with having to wash reusable diapers, that might not really suit well a Ugandan mother. First of all, look at the time we have as especially working mothers, and then the availability of wash facilities. For example, we have school-going girls putting on diapers, and you tell them to use reusable diapers. This is not only urine, but also fecal matters. So who is willing to wash poo? You get my point, my moderator. So it comes with a lot of psychological stress, at the same time, financial implication, because you will need clean water all the time, you will need soap all the time, and you will need sun where to hang such diapers. So reusable diapers really might not be a buy-in for most of the families, because first of all, the cost, and then what matters go in those diapers that will necessitate. And this is likely to affect the health of the users of the diapers further, because trust me, they might not like all the time get dry. So a child is likely to put them on when they are wet, ending up irritating their skin. And mind you, persons who are having spinal injuries and spina bifida, their skin is very sensitive. It breaks very easily. So washing diapers and re-wearing them might not really be very, very inconveniencing to the mothers. So uncomfortable to put them on. So let the government, I would really, really urge the government, the concerned parties, that let us reconsider. There should be a strong political will to even have these diapers supplied for free. So the issue of acceptability and usability is very, very key in this issue. So reusable diapers is really a no-go for most of the mothers based on the basics, the requirements, and other kind of work that comes with them, washing, having clean water. So during the lockdown, COVID-19 lockdown, most of the mothers never had soap. Hardly could they access clean water just because of the situation we're in. Now just imagine adding on having to wash a reusable diaper. So I'm a mother of a child who uses diapers 24/7, and I'm not really campaigning reusable diapers, but based on the acceptability and usability, they might not be user-friendly. That's why they are flooding, because this is not only just water, urine going into them, but fecal matter. So yeah, that's what I have.
Thank you, Ruth. I just want to pick up. I see Mary has indicated that she's back on the call. Mary, can you confirm if you're on the call?
Yes, please, I'm back. Thank you.
Yes, and the question I had for you just after the story you have told, which really not only is it touching, but it helps us to appreciate what exactly mothers of your nature are going through. What have been the most immediate effects of these tax on your daily life of a parent and a caregiver? Are you still able to provide qualitative health care to your beautiful child, or has it become even harder with this tax? I know it is in its initial stages, but what is your experience as of now?
Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Kansime. One thing I would like to bring to our attention is having such a special child. It is, I won't, please do not misquote me, but I would say it is so traumatizing. It is one of the facts that are so hard to live with. Now, just get to know you already have this issue that you have to learn to live with every day. And then, as something that you could take in for solace, is also being taken away from you. It is so unfair to me as a mother. You see, I see there is already, I would turn to this thing that would help me to ease the pain I am going through. And if it's taken away, I'll feel so uncomfortable. I'll feel like no one is thinking about me. So right now, I'm still able to take care of my child. But as I told you, that this comes in at a very costly price. Before, we were buying these diapers at 500 shillings per piece. Keeps on that the sizes of the diapers and the quantity of the diapers she uses every day, they keep on progressing. As her kidney is already affected, meaning that she has to keep on drinking every day to flush out these kidneys. So the more she drinks, the more we expect this urine to be created and to be expelled out. So every day, the number of diapers she uses, they keep on increasing in number, and even the sizes keep on increasing. The more she keeps growing, she graduates from the baby diapers, and then she gets to the adult diapers. A piece before of a baby diaper, when she was still small and a baby, it would cost us 500 shillings. The prices went 1,000, they went high again to 1,500. As we speak right now, a piece, please help me calculate. If a piece goes for 2,500 and then she's supposed to use 7 diapers a day, how much is that? Yet she's not the only child I have, and diapers is not the only thing we're looking at. There is medication for her, and there are some other personal effects we have to use on her, and the other sanitary materials who need to go to school, who also need to get clothing, who need to also have a better life living or their life at the expense of this, I am giving in order for me to balance and needs of the other children are met, I need to live, though for now, I am able, but I'm looking at the future. Remember, I told you she keeps growing. The prices are going high. The quantities are going high. And the qualities I need are also going high. So I see it is in the near handle that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary. And indeed, you put me on a hard task of doing calculations. They joke that that's why some of us did law, because the mathematics was hard. But I can project that you spend about more than 500,000 a month on just diapers. If the piece is at 2.5 and you have to use 7 pieces, I project that you spend upwards of 500,000. I can imagine that that's an undue burden. And so that brings me to Andrew again. Andrew, I know that one of the principles of taxation is fairness and equity, and the idea that the efficiency of tax should also be in bring into perspective the nature of the people you tax. I have two questions flowing from one. My understanding of VAT is also as if to suggest that the end user, who is the consumer, who probably is not involved in the production, in the manufacturing, in the other value chain of the system, is the one paying that tax. And when you make that tax a bit higher, are you not saying that you are imposing a tax on people who actually cannot afford life? Why is there a sudden necessity to tax adult diapers? Have they suddenly stopped being medical supplies as the government come into an epiphany where this is no longer a necessity for the Ugandans? Where is the principle of equity in taxation? As a tax practitioner, does it make sense to tax a section of society that cannot actually afford life, as Robert Kapshenga once said?
Thank you, KMT, and my colleagues, the fellow discussants and presenters. You know, by its nature, VAT is quite regressive, and it having a flat percentage across different items makes it quite tricky, especially where its effect is not leveled in terms of its effect on the different persons. But just for context and just for our listeners, this proposal, when it came, the understanding was actually not to levy VAT on adult diapers. So the proposal that the government had then was to exempt adult diapers from VAT. And the thinking then was that adults can only use diapers really when there is a necessity, when there is a dire need. And cited, like you previously said, medical reasons, especially targeting the elderly. So in essence, the adult diapers were to be exempted, and then the baby diapers or other forms of diapers were to be taxed or removed from the exemption list. The government was also coming from the background that there's so many exemptions have an effect of crippling the tax base or reducing the potential revenue, and that's why we have the potholes and those other reasons. And there was a projection that about 2.6 billion Uganda shillings would be collected from that measure of exempting the adult diapers and then collect from other diapers. And that was a proposal or a bill. When it was tabled before Parliament, there was really several discussions. And I'll quote Honorable Cecilia Ogwal, who was saying that it wouldn't be right for one to argue or to think that all adults will use adult diapers. Herself, she does not use, much as she's 70 or something. But it would also not be fair to exempt adult diapers and again tax the baby diapers because of the effect on the mothers, the effect on the women. Women have all sorts of challenges that would not be ideally faced by the other gender. So the understanding, then the discussion transpired. And the question was whether we exempt everything or we tax everything. And from the several correspondences, let's tax everything. And the overriding rationale then was, please, we need the revenue. Everyone says Parliament overspends money. We need the money. We need to close the potholes and all that. So the adult diaper and taxing it came as a consequence of the several deliberations and discussions that happened in Parliament. And like you said, then do we drop the medical reasons? Do we drop the environmental reasons? Do we drop the discriminatory nature of all the arguments put up during the proposal? So I want to say this, that at the end of the day, VAT is going to affect you as a final person. And the proportionate effect on women is actually quite more negative than it is on the men. And these adult diapers and taxing them, principally, you're making life very difficult. If you look at a person, men or any other children, when they fall sick, normally, and in our society as it is women who take care of them. Imagine the pain of having to wash the nappies or to wash all sorts of clothes. Imagine the pain in terms of cost, because if the man or the husband is sick, the baby cannot afford, or the dependent, and the woman has to use this little income that they make to buy the diapers, which is now expensive to be able to take care. So all these are really very, very negative, and they're having a very serious effect. And the need to balance these human rights aspects together with the need for revenue collection. So the adult diaper and the taxing of the adult diaper, I would really think is an area that was not really well researched. It's really not well thought through. And it is the argument of raising revenue really needed to be well balanced with the right of what is actually happening in society. We are a poor economy as we are ranked. And the society, the ladies, the women are the ones who struggle with this. So VAT with its final effect ultimately is going to be very, very difficult for a woman who is really supporting the household, a woman who is taking care of the children, a woman like Maria who is having to go an extra mile to do more than just buying a pamper to support a society. So this tax came to just to really respond expressly. The burden is really very heavy. The burden is very heavy, and this tax really was not justified. The argument of collecting 2.6 billion when we're able to exempt other projects or other people would really not really augur well. And also preserving the tax base. Why this marginalized, okay, in quotes, why this group only? Why this group? And that's a point that we need to really find. We need to find other avenues of raising revenue other than really looking at this necessity, this health requirement, because in effect, you're affecting the right to health of the women, of the children, of the disabled or the disadvantaged members. Sorry for my language, but it's an area that really needs to be looked into more carefully. And I'm glad that Women Pro Bono Initiative is taking an effort to ensure that this law, it's not too late. It's a question of constitutionality. It's a question of human rights that needs to be really looked into. That's what I can say, KMT, for now.
Thank you, Andrew, and I just want to get your thoughts, further on that, because you end on a point which I think is sometimes taken for granted. What's the relationship between taxation and human rights? Specifically, this webinar is specific on women's rights as well. What's the relationship between? Does there exist a relationship at all? And do tax practitioners like yourself take that relationship seriously?
As a matter of fact, and I'll be very honest, it's a point of the cat chasing a rat or the rat chasing a cat. Taxation by its nature is meant to help the government raise revenue. And the principles that are in are that even when something on the face of it looks illegal, the taxman will proceed to collect tax on that illegal activity, provided you've earned income. So taxation by its nature is not primarily or prima facie concerned with human rights. But with a modern society and the evolving society, we cannot afford to ignore the human rights aspects. And as we practice, sometimes we go overboard because we are more capitalistic. And the tax authority, URA, wants to correct the right tax that is due to it. Yourself as the taxpayer, you want to save as much tax as you can, or you want to pay only that tax that you should be able to pay per the income that you have earned or as levied by the law. So the intersection is not as big. But like we said, we are moving from a patriarchal kind of setting. Those older days, tax was a male issue or concept, but we are evolving, and these aspects have to be incorporated. It's a cause or a need for change and awareness that we should be advocating for. As you are collecting the revenues, as you are imposing the tax laws, think about the human aspects. Don't just look at revenue. And I want to really be on record. This law, as it was being passed, the human aspects were ignored. If you read or look at the Hansard, where this particular provision was discussed, you don't see people coming out really to speak about the human rights. And the speaker in her overriding real observation, she says, guys, we need to have revenue, we need to have money, we need to close the potholes. So the need for money, the need for having income as a government is really overriding the human rights. And this is the need for change that we need to push for and incorporate all these aspects. But for now, and as of today, the human rights considerations are really looked at secondary. Yet human rights are inherent by its nature. And the Constitution of Uganda itself is very clear that human rights are not given to us by the state. They're not given to us by anyone. They're inherent. So we need to cause change, KMT, and we need to get better. And currently, really, it's not so much a thing that we focus on as tax practitioners, but we need to get there. We need to have to cause change. And I'm glad WPI is really going into that direction.
Thank you very much, Andrew. And I think that's much, it's extremely candid and honest, really, to have the admission that we have a gap in especially the day-to-day tax practice, where there is a sort of like pedestrian approach to human rights issues, and specifically women's rights. And that perhaps begs the question on you know, speaks to the politics and who we send to parliament and whether they care about the ordinary citizen. But that's not our conversation today. Maria, just drawing from what Andrew has just said, as civil society, like Women Pro Bono Initiative, were you given an opportunity to have engagement on this law before it was passed, or was it too late? And if not, what efforts are we taking to have this engagement at this level? Andrew, I'll come back to you immediately after Maria. There's a question for you in the chat that I think needs to be answered in the immediate, on whether there is a way out for us. Is it done? Has it been settled? Do we have to wait for the amendment next year? Or is there a way out in which we can, you know, address this issue before it gets out of hand? Can we petition the Ministry of Finance or the URA? Andrew, you may come back in a bit to give us the procedural issues around that tax area, how we can challenge it going forward. But Maria, what is civil society doing in terms of engagement on this law?
Thank you so much, Tarema. And in terms of the engagement, we did not have opportunity for consultation, but we got to know about the recommendations that were made to Parliament by the Uganda Medical Association, and these were ignored. But also, as people who have worked closely with UOPA, who have also worked closely with other women's rights organizations that have had influence with the Uganda Women's Parliamentary Association, we had some advocates among the MPs who are anti this tax. But of course, overall, that their views were not considered. But they were captured and documented in the minority report. So at least in terms of showing our impact to members of parliament that we have engaged before in our previous discussions, we can see that there have been female members of parliament who have understood the feminist perspective, who have understood the gender lens and the issues from firstly the lived experiences as women member of parliament, but also as people who have interacted with the work and the research we have done. So in that way, that's a win to know at least that we have women in parliament who stood and they are counted, and history will judge them fairly for that. but also as the Women's Pro Bono Initiative, despite not being consulted and being taken into consideration, we have decided to challenge this tax, and we have decided to go by judicial review because of the challenges that may come with the constitutional petition. You know, our judicial system and tax laws are amended yearly, and there are other various challenges. So we decided to file a case. Last week we filed a case. We also had advocacy around the issue. We had one of our networks on board, the Uganda Women's Network, UONET, and mothers who live with children with special needs. We had someone from the Spina Bifida organization, a doctor, who was able to address the press, but also have these issues documented and shared with the relevant stakeholders so that going forward, these issues can be taken into consideration. So yes, we have gone to court, and beyond court, we are looking forward to engage stakeholders, and not only as an isolated organization, but as a collective from the women's movement. So this is also part of my call to people out there to get on this hashtag to reject the diaper tax, to tweet about it, get yourselves informed. You have platforms, you can share experiences, you are mothers, you are people who know about this issue, you are now even better sensitized from having these conversations. So you can use your platform from whatever level that you have to be among the people that can advocate for a fair and just society. Yes, that's my contribution.
Thank you very much, Maria. And indeed, I have read in the papers and, you know, in our discussions, you've told me about this case and its relevance. You released a statement this week, or at the tail end of last week, I think, in which you argued that the tax has a ripple effect even on those that are not directly affected by the conditions requiring diapers. I think that's extremely important. What did you mean by that? And why is that important for the public to know? Because sometimes maybe people ignore the issue because it's not affecting them directly. Why is it important for people to know that this has a ripple effect beyond their direct suffering?
Yeah, I'll just state summarily the ripple effect, because from all the previous discussion, the story of Mary Barrier as a mother with a special needs child, that's one of the ripple effects. As Andrew Chambade, who is a tax expert but has a wife who he has children, it's also a ripple effect. Ruth spoke about each one of us being a potential use of adult diapers because of spinal cord injury resulting from motor accidents. That's a possible effect. But also, I spoke about the contribution that women make to the economy in terms of their time, their unpaid care work that is not taken into account, their participation, meaningful participation in society, their inclusion, their autonomy to make decisions about their bodies and therefore be in society as meaningful members. All of that is a ripple effect. And gender equality does not only benefit women, it benefits us as a whole, as a society. We all benefit from having our mothers, from having our sisters, from having our friends be in a better status, being in a better position to make meaningful contribution. I am here because we have women that went ahead of us and advocated for our right to work as women. So you will see that even right now, as a person who does not use adult diapers, but I am advocating for a woman out there, for a sister that I may not know her direct contribution to my life, but as you can see, Ruth said that she heads an organization, she's an ED, she has a daughter living with a condition, but she has other work that we do. Women do not live single issue lives. We have other contributions that we make. to society. We are not just wives, we're not just mothers. We are economists, we are speakers of parliament, we are leaders, we are preachers, we are everything in society that we can do as individuals. So if this component that affects our lives, either directly or indirectly, is not catered for, as a society, we are all affected. You are as strong as your weakest link. So if you leave that inequality and that injustice not to be addressed through policy formulation and practice, it may look very far from you, but it is not. At one point or one way or the other, you are going to be affected. So this is not just a myopic discussion, it's a discussion that looks at the end of things, that looks at the implications now, it looks at the implications for the future, it looks at the implications for the education sector, for the health sector. Just because someone is living privately with an issue, you may not know that you have a colleague who uses adult diapers. You may not know that you have a colleague who has a special needs child. You will just see one of your colleagues starting to come in late. Why? Because they could not afford adult diapers and they just needed to find means on how to get those for their child who's living with disabilities. There is so much that this tax has affected, and we need to look at it from a holistic lens.
Thank you so much, Maria, and that's extremely helpful. For the benefit of the listener, just so you know, the Women Pro Bono Initiative has instituted a case of judicial review against Section 8A of the VAT Amendment Act. And they are requesting the High Court to recognize the imperative nature of this issue and take proactive steps to exempt adult diapers from taxes. You can certainly participate in the efforts to give this case visibility, to give this case the necessary support it may need. For starters, you can tweet about this case under the hashtag reject adult diaper tax. The hashtag reject adult diaper tax. You can tweet about it, talk about it on your social media and all that. It's interesting, Maria, and ironic as well, that Section 8A is coming out, yet it has ignored the context of women's rights. On the other hand, Article 8A of the Constitution requires that no law should be passed without paying attention to the national objectives and directive principles of state policy. I have done some research in that area, and it interests me to know that some of the directive principles of state policy include the equity of people in society and the rights of women, and how no law should be passed that violates these constitutional tenets. So it's really interesting that Parliament went ahead and passed this amendment without paying attention to Article 8 of the Constitution. It's something that's for keeps really to pay attention to. But I'll quickly move to Ruth and Mary again. We are getting into the stage where we need to wrap up. There's a lot of traffic and feedback on the chats, and I will be reading some of the comments on the chat a little later after these submissions. But let me just go back to Ruth.
Hello.
I think we have lost our moderator.
Yeah, I can't hear the moderator.
So I will just, as we wait for him to come back, I will just read some of the comments in the chat.
Okay.
Yes, so we have a comment from Udaya. She said, hearing the emotional story from one of the mothers, the suggestion to use reusable diapers is too absurd and unfair to all women and caretakers out there who not only have to worry about the medicine, but also the costly diapers or water to wash the reusable diapers. However, much the country is hungry for revenue, we should not forget humanity, morality, especially towards women who are tasked with caretaking of babies, the sick and the elderly, regardless of the measure of Kameza money. I believe it is not too late to petition court for the unconstitutionality of this provision. We have a comment from Martha Katiaike. She says, I think going forward, tax implementers should know that if they do not find a balance between human rights with taxation, there'll be no humans left in the world to even use those pothole-free roads or even pay more tax. As leaders, it's really selfish of them to continually pass policies that exploit the poor deeply. Before Mom passed, one pack of diapers was 70,000, and that could work only 4 days. Now we had hospital bills at Kampala Hospital and extra other bills. There was no room to breathe because bills were like bills. Yeah, so she's also giving her experience. She was also on the verge of a mental breakdown. So this also feeds into the issue I was stating about the effect, the ripple effect of the tax. We have a comment from Nina. This bill will affect women disproportionately as the primary caregivers in our society. Thank you, Women Pro Bono, for the services of taking this head on. Yes, Tarima, while you are away, I took off the time to read some comments in the chat.
Yeah, I had connection to another device and actually could follow. I was just trying to connect to the device I was using. So thank you just really for reading the comments, which I have also lost because of going off the call. But that's coming through, and we appreciate your feedback. Please keep this conversation on your social media beyond even this much visibility to this WPI case so that we good discussions and good. I was just gonna ask a question. Ruth, if you can confirm if you can hear me.
Yes, I do. But you've gone off kind of. Moderator? Maria, it's like we've lost Talema again.
Let me see.
Yes, Maria, as maybe we try to get the moderator back, I just wanted to build on what you had earlier on answered about being consulted. I think in all tax amendments related issues, it is very, very important for the for the government to seek the expertise and feedback from the different stakeholders and expertise feedback on the potential impact of tax amendments on adult diapers. Who then informed them about this? Then that takes me back to Andrew's submission that it was really, really kind of, it went through the window, I should say, in quotes. Yes,
Ruth?
Talema.
Ruth, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Ruth, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I just wanted to inquire, in terms of all the things that we have had, and there seems to be a lot of skepticism around the conversation already. Is there a hope? Do we have a comeback from this situation? From a policy dimension, as a public health practitioner, from an advocacy perspective, even from your back beyond the cases, is there something we can do that can us?
I thank you so much, Talemwa. I think this is very, very important. And if the government and the responsible parties are willing to reconsider, reassess the potential consequences, like increase the financial burden, reduced access to these essential hygiene products, then the negative implications for the health and well-being of the affected populations, and also compare the financial gains with the potential increase in healthcare costs and the societal burdens, like I said earlier on, that is resulting from the reduced access to adult diapers. There should be, without even having to really discuss and rediscuss, there should be a fallback position on this. From my knowledge, it's like every year they review the VAT tax amendment, VAT. So I think it's never too late, like we've been saying, and that the fallback position should be there, but it can only be there if we come together as a team. And I would like to appreciate WPI for this initiative, for bringing us together as stakeholders to kind of have this kind of engagement, this kind of awareness will, through the social media, public gatherings, petitioning the concerned, will really provide us with that fallback position and have this reconsidered. Because, Talemwa, you will allow me to highlight a few key things that really should push us to have this reconsideration. One, I'm looking at the equality and the social inclusion of these people. If we do not revise or have this revised, this is likely to perpetuate the inequality and hinder social inclusion of these people. For example, persons with spina bifida already are experiencing and taxing these medical supplies is going to further marginalize and stigmatize them, making it harder for them to participate in the social activities and also maintain their dignity. These products, we should all know that they provide independence, dignity, and comfort. And making them expensive, individuals are likely to be forced to choose between purchasing an adequate supply of diapers or other essential needs, potentially compromising their overall quality of life. Then the health and hygiene, it is very, very crucial that it is very, very crucial for individuals with spina bifida injury to prevent infections and other complications. Our mothers already told us about the infections and other complications. So taxing these diapers is likely to discourage them from using them consistently. And also the producers are going to compromise the quality, and we will end up with a lot of issues in the private parts of these people and in the diaper area of these people, leading to potential medical complications, really. Accessibility and affordability. These items, like Maria said, they are not a luxury. They are essential medical supplies. And then can we stick to our grand rules? I mean, these taxes. So let us not really compromise accessibility and affordability, because we are compromising the health and hygiene needs. And finally, the financial burden. impose additional financial burden onto families and persons using them. And Maria has already talked about the ripple effect. Just imagine a child who is smelling from morning to evening, a girl who is menstruating, having to use diapers. They will not use they will not use sanitary pads. They will use diapers. How are we going to cater them? How are we to cater for them? How are we going to have them included in the social activities? We are excluding them and now stigmatizing and traumatizing their families, and also having many fathers will continue to run away from their homes because, for example, they are already burdened over the cost of other rehabilitation, maybe costs, and now we are adding on to another double cost of diapers. And most of the fathers have abandoned their homes just because of the cost. And now this is going to leave many families single-headed. In conclusion, I just want to say that yes, the fallback position should be there, but it takes the political will, strong political will. And so I urge you to the public, can we come together and collaborate with us? Can you come and collaborate with us to amplify the voice and concerns of adult diaper users? Let us partner together. Let us create awareness. Participate in these awareness campaigns. Like Maria said, let us visit our Twitter handles, social media handles, to say no to this big elephant in the house. And let us not give up in petitioning, writing petitions to and have them signed by the concerned citizens of Uganda. So, Karema, that is what I can say, but given the importance of adult diapers for people, it is very crucial for policymakers to consider exempting these products from taxes, recognizing the medical necessity and the impact on vulnerable groups. So let us really push for equal access for the people who rely on it.
Thank you very much. And I see a wonderful comment from the that I think needs to be attention. Given that tax laws are amended on an annual basis with Ministry of Finance, URA, and rather than court action, Ministry of I don't know if this is Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development, rather than court action may yield the desired results. The Traders Associations, CASITA, and Uganda Association may be an ally as reasoned comment. And I think the team at WPI will be taking it into account a multi-pronged approach. I just want to come in to ask Maria to Mary to come in and question us even as we come to the last segment of this conversation. Mary, if you're on call, Mary, please confirm so that my question doesn't go begging.
Yes, please, I'm on.
Thank you so much. I know that this kind of burden comes with a lot of that while you have no regrets about having your child, you cannot ignore the fact that it has taken a toll on you. But this kind of tax burden comes with a lot of indignity on women who cannot afford. I have read in many others have sunk into pits of shame and depression, you know, for the feeling that they have failed to take care of their loved ones. Speaking to the people in power, in privileged positions of influence, I'm amazed because our parliament is made up of women of stature who probably stood by and saw this passing by, notable among whom is our Speaker of Parliament. If you have opportunity to speak, please.
Thank you so much. One thing I would like to bring to our attention is these diapers are not a luxury. They are a necessity. They are a health requirement. If we do not receive it, if I do not buy them for my child, it poses so many other risks on her health. With privileged places, it comes with a social stigma. Just like one thing I forgot to let you know in my story is my child was going to a normal school, just like all these other children. But because of her condition, that was displayed in the leaks she would have on her uniforms once in a while, and the children knowing that she puts on diapers, she was just out of school. So she's no longer going to that school. So we resorted to doing homeschooling. So just imagine that stigma that we are going through. And even her herself, she keeps on asking questions that, mother, why is it that me, I put on diapers and then others do not put them on? So you have to keep on explaining to her, and even her siblings, they try to protect her, that no one should get to know that she wears diapers. Now imagine if she is at that stage of a stigma, yeah, and then this law is passed and the diapers are bought at an expensive price. Who knows? That maybe tomorrow we might not be able to afford them, and then she has to keep on leaking. How much emotional damage will that have? Will she have to undergo? So, whoever is concerned, to you, our listeners, a health requirement. We need it all the time. So I would urge the privileged people, if it were possible, the government of Uganda should be supplying this for free because it is a medical supply. It is not a luxury, it is a medical supply. If it were possible, let it be supplied at a free cost to whoever needs it. If not, let the prices be dropped down that everyone is able to afford. For now, I am able. What of those other mothers with the same challenge? Are they able to buy them? Even at 500 shillings, they were not able. So if we raise the prices furthermore, what will they be doing? Yeah, so I think this is an important issue that needs to be debated on, that needs to be stopped. Please, I'll ask everyone, please come up, let us speak. Let us speak out for this particular kind of people. Disability is not something anyone asks from the Lord. The Lord chooses and He grants it to whoever He wishes. But they have a right to live. As a nation, the nation has a right to protect them because they are human beings, regardless of their disabilities. Employed. I pay as you earn. So I would pause and think this money the government picks from all the sweat I get out of my body every day as I work. What do they use it for? Where do I benefit me as a taxpayer? So please, everyone, let us stand out. Let us be counted among the numbers that are going to stop the Parliament of Uganda from passing this bill. As a nation, it is the mandate of the nation to protect its citizens. These disabled children or disabled people, the elderly, they are also nationals of Uganda. They need to be protected. They have a right to life, just like any other human being. They already have a lot on their plates. Please let us stand up and support them that to make their journey more smooth as they are, passing through all these other pains. Let us support them that they get to feel, you know what, I am loved. I'm a human being just like everyone else is. I would like to thank the WPI for organizing this engagement and creating the awareness. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mary, for that very candid discussion and passionate appeal to the people that are in the position of power. And this is basically what WP is about, to ensure that we can shout on the mountaintops and on all the rooftops the issue of women's rights and why this is extremely important. I'll just ask to take a few questions from the audience. Maria, you will help me to see which people have raised their hands. If there are a few questions from the audience, I'll take 3 questions from the audience, and then I'll ask the panelists to share as are there any hands that have been raised? Maria, do we have any hands that have been raised?
None that I see yet.
Okay, so please post some questions in the chat, or if you have questions, please feel free to ask, even as we come to the tail end of the show. But as we wait for those questions, Andrew, I may have to bring you in here for one last question from me. In terms of revenue streams, so what are the alternatives that we would be offering to the government in terms of revenue collection?
Thank you, KMT and the presenters. It's been very, very wonderful. And like you said, or like all our other previous persons have said, human rights is such an important aspect. In fact, it overrides every other aspect of society. It's a very, very important, because it is what makes us human beings. It's what really makes us who we are in society. And all these other things are on top, or they are added onto the human rights aspect. So thinking that you're going to collect 2.6 billion from diapers, and that is going to change the potholes in Kampala, that is going to provide medicine in hospital, to the detriment of such persons who are really suffering, especially the women, the elderly, the children. I think that is really short-sighted kind of thinking. 2 billion in the context of our government expenditures and how the money is used or misused is really too little to affect the society or the bigger number of the population. We could have other options. And I want to suggest this with recognizing that we appreciate government or parliament has tried to factor into women's rights in some of the proposals, like removing VAT on all forms of contraceptives. Mama kits are also VAT exempted, the medicated gloves, medicated caps and cotton wool, all those menstrual caps do not attract VAT, and we appreciate that. It's not that everything has to be about money, KMT. Certain things are really more than just money. So balancing a 2.6 billion vis-a-vis thousands or hundreds of people who would die or who cannot live because of this difficulty, I think money can wait. Money can pause. We have so many other things that really are luxury. We have so many other exemptions within the VAT Act that we can really address, or that we can find a way. But foregoing this money, for me, looking at the effect of the opportunity cost of foregoing a 2.6 billion for the mothers to have a better health, for the children, for the adults to have a better health, is much, much more important than just money. We have people, for example, who are having leased properties or who are having an improved land. Let the government look into all those things. We have the biggest informal sector. Let the government try to find those other avenues. Oh, even already the existing, KMT, I will tell you that the taxes in Uganda are not paid by everyone. The favors are not obtained by everyone. There's a smaller gap. So it's not about the quantity or the size of the tax base per se, but the quality of the tax base. That is what, so get those who are actually making the money, get those who are actually earning the income, get the ones to be taxed, not just the easiness of you finding someone who is employed and it's so formal for you to collect the tax and you pick from that. So there's more to be done. There's more and much more to be done, but focus on the quality of the tax base. Make sure that people pay the right tax. Don't really burden the people. So for me, it's more really about the structure. Structure, consider, review, do research, and look at the structure of this economy. Focus on those areas which are really generating money, other than really looking at groups that I would say, for lack of a better word, marginalized groups, or the least advantaged group, the poor groups, the women, the informal sector. People live in a subsistence economy. Imagine a mother coming from a garden and has to do all those kinds of things. So we need to really sit and think, and also going forward. These discussions, I know government normally publishes in newspapers, it's a notice of 7 days. It's not enough to enable different groups like WPI to prepare a paper or to present or to consult. MPs never consult on these things. They never come back. If really all the people here, how many members of parliament came to your constituency to discuss about these diapers? The feedback would be different. But if we make laws only for Kampala or only for people in offices, I think we need to do better. And the solutions have to be an overhaul, not really just cherry picking that do this or do this, but an overhaul of the structure through which we do this. So KMT, we need to do better in terms of really involving everyone. Advocacy is also very, very, very important. And like Rahon has said, there's a judicial review petition, but tax laws are amended every year. Let's not just stop at court. Let us push this, and perhaps let's prepare a working paper so that by the time next year, May, March, new proposal on board, we also put in a paper as WPI and say we want this provision revised because of its impact. Let's keep in touch. Let's follow the numbers. Let's see how much revenue has this proposal generated in case we do not really get the result that we need. How much has it generated? And we show these MPs by numbers that really this proposal was not well thought. Let's get the stories. Let's compile them and be able to really justify and ensure that we get the short-term measure of the judicial review, but also long-term, this law is struck out. Thank you, KMT.
Thank you very much, Andrew. There's a question here in the chat from Nabukera Doreen. Thank you, Doreen. I think it is addressed to it's not specifically who, it's not addressed to anyone specific. So I'll ask Ruth and Mary to respond to it, and even Rahom. Are there any proposed mitigations to address any negative consequences the amendment might have on women's rights? I think Ruth can go first. Are there any proposed mitigations to address any negative consequences the amendment might have on women's rights?
Thank you so very much, the moderator and Nabukela, for that question. As of now, like how we have been sharing since morning, I should say that yes, 50 and no for now. But what we are saying is that we still stand our ground, that we want the government to reconsider this Tax Amendment Act on adult diapers. And it's at this time that I call upon everyone out there to work with us in garnering support to ensure that we put some kind of pressure onto the responsible stakeholders to make sure that come next year during the tax amendment, this is reversed. And yes, we can achieve. So let us work together to document, to do some kind of research and analysis that we can present to the Parliament of Uganda, that we can present to the responsible ministries, and also to try to follow up on the progress and impact of the potential tax, because come 2023, our government works with numbers, facts. Let us work together. I know we have potential people here. Let us put the facts on paper, document how many people are affected by this. We shall be able to win if we come out collaboratively and have this reversed. The implication is already affecting so many people. Mothers are no longer able to afford. Children are going to break to drop out of school. That one I assure you, because this has already actually taken place. Some of them have not ended the term because of the failure to purchase Pampers on daily. Pampers or diapers. So yes, we are doing our best as civil society organizations, and I really appreciate WPI for coordinating us to come together and we talk about this. Let us continue making noise. Let us continue sharing the facts, and I believe that this will have to be reversed and perhaps have a strong political will to have them exempted fully, because it's a medical requirement. Right now, all assistive devices are tax-free. Why not diapers? Because they are serving persons with disability, with special needs, and it's a health issue. So let us continue working together, and I call upon all other stakeholders, civil society organizations, women agencies. Let us come together and push for reversal of this amendment. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ruth.
Moderator, we've not heard you. Your network is really not so good. Your network is really doing us a disservice. Maria?
Since Tarumwa is breaking and we are at the end of the hour, maybe we can have some parting shots from our panelists. I'll begin with Andrew. Andrew, what are your parting shots?
Thank you, Maria and WPI and all my colleagues for this really very wonderful discussion. It's really very important. It's very timely, and I implore all of us really to join this discussion to push and disseminate information, like a colleague is saying in the chat, that people in Tororo, he does not expect them to even be knowing what is happening. So let's really keep the discussion going. Let's support each other. Let's look out for each other in whichever way we can help. And Maria, I offer myself, when you need to present a paper to Parliament, I'm able to have some input. I've done that before, so that perhaps we have this clear information disseminated, and we're able to help these MPs have a change of mind and not just focus on money, but really look at other aspects of the society, like the health issues and the human rights issues, which are very primary to our living. Others, thank you so very much, everyone, and our dear listeners. It's really been a pleasure interacting and looking forward to more discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Andrew, for those parting shots. I will also take some short parting shots from Ruth and Mary if they're on the call. I am sure I'm being heard clearly now.
Yes, in my final words, I just want to thank WPI for this. Hello?
We can hear you, Ruth.
Okay, yes. So I just want to appreciate the moderator and WPI and all the panelists for sparing their time to come and discuss about this public health issue that we a very big elephant that we have in the house right now, and let us not give up. I know advocacy takes some time, but I know that many people are going to be reached with this information. Perhaps there was some element of ignorance because I managed to have a chat with some of the members of parliament who are in charge of disability, and some of them were not in the house, others did not know about this. So let us continue sensitizing the public and call upon public efforts to make sure that we put the concerned on some kind of tension, but also sharing with them the facts. I know that those that have been on the call can also help us to disseminate out there. And I've seen already some members who have committed to join the initiative, to join the campaign. Please share with us your contacts in the email address so that WPI is able to capture your contacts and reach out to you when time is due to come and we do some regional based campaigns up to the last person who is really affected by this VAT. But thank you so much. This is a very, very critical issue, and let us continue working as a team to make sure that we have this reversed. And also I implore the Parliament of Uganda, the government, to always make consultations, because it's our constitutional right to be consulted, especially in terms afternoon. Thank you.
Mary, are you able to hear us? Maria, I believe you're able to hear me. So if we can't hear Mary, could you just come in and give your parting shots?
I would like to thank everyone who has joined us for this call. And it's a very great opportunity to be able to stand for women's rights any day, anytime. That's what I am called for, and this is what WPI's vision is. Adult diapers are not a luxury. 556 members of parliament, that's a luxury. That's a very big luxury on our end. So one of the recommendations to save on revenue, downsize the parliament, have those who can make meaningful decisions. That would be one of my recommendations. But other than that, I call people to join the hashtag. Our social media handle on Twitter is @WomenProBono. Follow us, engage, share your stories, those who know of any stories, and we have them documented, and we look forward to seeing the engagement on social media.
Thank you very much, Maria, and the rest of the team. Mary, I don't know if she's still on the call, but we have learned from this session, and as many of you may have known before, that women bear the brunt of policy reforms which worsen inequality and impact their expenditure. And so it is helpful for us to have that context even as we end this call, that women bear the brunt of these policy reforms. I will end with the words of Women Pro Bono Initiative in their release last week. Women already face unique challenges related to their reproductive health and should not have to bear the additional financial burden imposed by taxation on adult diapers. In a world where inclusivity, empathy, and support are crucial tenets of our society, the burden imposed by taxation on adult diapers is incongruent with these values. We must champion policies that prioritize the well-being of our most vulnerable populations and promote a more equitable and compassionate society. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure to be your host for this session. Looking forward to the next. Thank you, Women Pro Bono Initiative. Thank you, Ruth, Mary, and Andrew, for your insightful conversations, and thank you for the audience for lending us your time. From me to you, it's have a good afternoon and God bless you.